no account required, you can now go to securustech.net and put money directly on an offender's trust account. Save on fees and deposit money today. Go to securustech.net. That's SECURUSTECH.net. Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from an offender at the Chillicothe Correctional Center.
This call is from a correctional facility and may be monitored and recorded.
To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2.
If you would like to permanently block...
Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How about you?
Good, I'm doing well. So first of all, thank you for updating us on the whole Ryan work situation. That was a relief.
It was so relieved because I had called him at like 5 o'clock that day. And I'm like, do you still have a job? And he's like, yeah, I still have a job, but the principal don't like me. And I'm like, why doesn't the principal like you? And he's like, she saw me go into my car for my break to talk to you, and then she was like, are you just coming in? He's like, no, I just was on my break. And so it was all about like him. She just doesn't like him going to his car in the parking lot for his break. And she's like, this time that your break is to be used for study planning and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what the fuck? But it was about that.
Oh my God! Like, why does it matter to them? Why does it matter to them?
I don't know. I mean, whenever he first got hired, it was a different principal, and then that principal retired, and so this lady is who took over, and she's a little bit more strict. She's kind of like, yeah, we're gonna whip this school in the shade, and she kind of told Ryan, like, if you don't step up your game and try to engage the kids more in the classroom, that he's not going to be asked back next year, like rehired back. So he's like, I'm going to, I'm learning just as much as, and she's like, well, why don't you ever ask for help? And he's like, I just don't want to be a burden on you guys. And she's like, well, I'm taking that as you don't care about this job and whatnot. So she's just kind of like, bleh, on him. Yeah, so they got there were like teachers got like their report card kind of thing, and so he got a low score, and I told him to stay like keep a score to himself because that one teacher, Miss Holmes, that I don't we had all the drama over. She was like, "Let me see your score. Show me your score." And he's like, "You don't need to see my score. Like that's personal. You don't need to see it." And he's like, well, so-and-so got this score, and I got this score, and we're just so curious about what score you got. And I'm like, don't trust her.
No, God,
like,
no.
Don't trust that snake.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh. Well, so much drama. Oh, my God. It's funny because yes, but I'll tell you this, if it's at all comforting for you, I come from a family of educators. My sister was a teacher. My brother-in-law was a teacher and then a principal, and now he's like a big wig at the school district. And they have said that teachers are some of the most dramatic people ever. Like, there is always drama. It's like a soap opera.
Oh, God. Good to know.
So, yeah. So tell Ryan to take heart and to try and not get caught up in that.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Well, listen, let's launch right into it. I have a lot of questions. We may not be able to get through all of them today.
Oh,
so
okay.
You let me know. I know. But I'll check in with you. You let me know how you're feeling.
Okay.
About stuff. Some of it can be a little, emotionally taxing, especially when we're talking about things particularly related to the crime, which is where we are now in terms of writing these episodes. And so some of the stuff that I'll ask you, I know that I've asked you before, but I'm asking again because we might need a little bit more elaboration, or we might just need, a little bit of a cleaner type of bite from you. Okay. So let me start recording. Okay. So we're going to start with the stealing of the murder weapon. You stole the knife from Walmart, right?
Right.
Okay. When you got home, what did you do with it? Walk me through that. So start me off with, after I stole the knife and I got back home.
Okay, after I stole the knife from Walmart and my mother and I got home, I stashed the knife under my bed, and that's where I kept it until the night of the murder. And then I moved the knife from under my bed, and I put it under the cushion of one of our wingback chairs in our living room.
So how did it feel more real at all now that you had the murder weapon? What were your thoughts at that time about this murder plan that you and Nick had come up with?
Honestly, it didn't set in how real it was. It was like I was just going through my life and following Nick's orders. I didn't feel any emotion when I had the knife. It was just kind of like, okay, it's there. It was almost like checking something off of a grocery list.
What do you think about that now? Like when you look back on that now, with all that you've grown and learned about yourself, what are your thoughts on your mindset back then?
I think knowing now what I didn't know then, I pity myself. I look at myself as a scared little girl, trapped and desperate to get out of a bad situation. I tried to cut myself some slack a little bit and not over criticize myself for the crime or my choices. I really feel just sorry for myself.
Do you wish that you had done anything differently?
Of course I wish I had done things differently. I wish that I knew that there were people that I could go to for help. I wish that there were, I knew that there were resources that I could have reached out to for help. I wish that I would have known that I didn't have to commit this crime.
What contributed to, you're saying that you probably could have gone to somebody back then. Why didn't you feel that you could back then?
I felt like I couldn't reach out to anyone back then because I didn't think that anybody would believe me. I mean, my mother was so good at lying and manipulating people's emotions to make them...
Hold on a second, Gypsy. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. I had some sound interference. Start again. Start again. Oh, this dog. Start again. Tell me about your mother's manipulation.
Yeah. So ask the question again because now I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. So why do you feel that? Why did you feel back then that there was nobody that you could have gone to for help?
I think the reason that I didn't reach out to anyone for help is because I really just didn't think that they would believe me. My mother was so good at manipulating people, their emotions, their thoughts. And so I think that if I would have told someone, or at least that's what I thought in the moment, is that if I tell someone what's going on at home, they won't believe me. And they're going to tell my mom what I said. And then she's going to hit me. And it's going to be worse for me at home.
Mm-hmm. Just can you elaborate a little bit on this idea that it didn't feel real? Things didn't feel real to you. It felt like you said you were just going through the motions. Can you sort of expand on that?
I guess
because I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand how disconnected from reality you were at that time, because they're thinking, well, you planned this murder, you stole the weapon, you guys knew what was going to come. So how is it that you were feeling so numb about it?
I mean, I was high all of the time on pain pills, so that the side effects of those pain pills create this disconnection to reality, a numbness. So combine that with just doing as I was told by Nick, step by step. If you look at the Facebook records, if you look at his instructions, he is the one that said, get the knife, get this, get that, get X, Y, and Z. And I was just following orders that he was giving me. And that's essentially what I did my whole life for my mother and now Nick. And so I did feel disconnected about the whole situation because to me, it was just how I lived my life. I lived my life very disconnected from the things that was going on in my life with my mother and now with Nick. And so, of course, I was going to be disconnected and numb to the whole situation because I was getting high, and it was just more of the same that I knew. It was just a different person telling me what to do.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes a lot of sense. So, after leading up to the murder, there was a point where you broke up with Nick because what he was expressing to you was shocking even for you, right? Like it was a very big turnoff.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that?
Yes, Nick was always very disturbed, I guess you can say. And some of the things that he was interested in, some of the things that Nick, I guess, was turned on by was very disturbing. And things that I didn't agree with at all. So there was an incident that we were talking via Facebook message, and he was starting to talk to me about if we would ever have children, which of course is like it's what couples do, right? When you're in love and you want to plan your future together, you start talking about kids and what that future would look like. And then things took a darker turn on his end. He starts telling me about how when our daughter, who would have a daughter, when she would turn 13, that he would have to take her virginity. And that was just so disgusting and disturbing to me that I broke up with him over it. I cussed him out, of course, and I was like, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you, you sick, pedophile, pervert, crazy person. And I broke up with him. And then over the course of 2-3 days, he emails me, he messages me that he didn't mean it, he was sorry, that he would never do something like that. It was a fantasy to him. It was just something that his darker side wanted, but he doesn't really want that. And that he loves me so much to please come back. And he begged me and begged me and begged me. And you have to understand that I thought that Nick was so in love with me, and I thought that this was someone who is going to be my Prince Charming. I thought this was someone that was my forever. I thought that this was a person that was finally going to love me right. And so, of course, I took him back. And I only took him back on the promise that he would never do something like that.
And so, did you believe him?
I believed him at the time. I believed what he was telling me was true, that he wouldn't ever do something like that, that maybe it was just a fantasy that he had expressed to me, something that his darker personality would have wanted, but that's not something that he would have ever acted on.
Would you be able to give me that as just a quick line, something like, I believed him, so I took him back?
I believed him, so I took him back.
Perfect. I know I asked you about this last time, the video that you made of the walkthrough. Mm-hmm. And I asked you last time why you had made that stabbing motion on camera. And you said, because I guess it went with the plan. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that a little bit more, just elaborate a little bit on that?
I don't know how. How would I elaborate on that?
Well, what was your reasoning for doing that?
The reason why I made that video was to give Nick a layout of what the house looked like and what her bedroom looked like.
Right, but why the stabbing motion on camera?
I don't even know. I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things that's like, this is what you're gonna do, that. I don't know. There was no really reason behind it.
Was it sort of like just acting? Yeah, well, and was it sort of just like acting out, going through the motion? This is how it's going to happen?
Yeah, it was just kind of like going through the motions of what might happen.
Right. Okay. We're going to get into some nicer stuff before we get into some bad stuff again. Tell me about the first time that Ryan walked into the visitation room and you met him in person. First time you saw him, what did you feel? What did you think?
Okay, so it was early July, and the first time that Ryan and I met in person was on a visit here at the prison. I walked into the room, and let me just tell you, before Ryan and I met in person, we've always had this kind of like back and forth between being just friends and then being like flirty friends. And so I think that I wanted to make sure that Ryan knew that I was not going to come in and hug him and kiss him right away. I didn't want him to think that I was just that kind of a girl that's just going to kiss anybody. I'm like, we're meeting as friends, and we'll see how it goes. So I walk in, and I see him sitting at the table, and of course, this is in the time of COVID, so he was wearing a mask. And he was wearing a mask that had like hearts on it. I'm like, if that's not subliminal, I don't know what is. And so I walked to the table, and I gave him a hug. And he sat down and he took off his mask. And I think the first initial thought that I came to is that, wow, he's a lot more handsome than in his pictures. Some people don't take great pictures. And so seeing him in person, I'm like, oh, he's cuter than I thought. Okay. And then like getting to hear his voice and just how we interact with each other. He asked me if I wanted something to drink, and I'm like, sure. He's like, do you want a Coke? And I'm like, sure. And no, like, it didn't even register in my brain at that moment that I don't really like Coca-Cola. But I said, sure. And so he gets me a Coca-Cola, and we sit down, and we're just talking, and we are laughing together. The vibe is great. The chemistry is great. And then we're enjoying the moment of being together. And a normal visitation hours, like a 4-hour block, so we had 4 hours to sit and talk together. And then when the visit was almost over, I can kind of tell that I was leaning more towards, yes, I was going to give him a kiss. It was kind of funny because I kind of knew he wanted to kiss me too, because I licked my lips for a second to make sure that I wouldn't have like dry lips, and then like he mimicked me and did the same thing. So I think like that was like his cue too, that he knew that I was going to go for the kiss. And so I gave him a hug and I gave him the kiss. And of course you can't like make out in the visiting room, but it's just like a little peck of a kiss. But it was just enough that I can tell that there was a little something, a little butterfly there. And then the visit ended. And I left to go back to my housing unit, but I called him like 15 minutes after he left the prison. And he's like, so what'd you think? And I'm like, I'm a little smitten. He's like, I didn't think I was going to get the kiss. And I'm like, no. He's like, when did you know you were going to kiss me? I'm like, probably after 5 minutes of being there.
So it's safe to say you guys had a pretty immediate connection?
Yes, I would definitely say that we had like this immediate connection. Very, very positive vibes between us.
Beautiful. So now, walk me through again. Tell me about your engagement story. And I know that there were sort of two proposals of sorts. So tell me that story again.
So sorry, but did Ryan ever tell you what happened that night, though? That night of the
I don't think so. Oh, I don't know.
About the fireworks?
I don't know. Why don't you tell me?
Okay, so after the visit, that night he told me that he was going to set off some fireworks for me because it was near the 4th of July. So he bought some fireworks, and he's like, at 10:30, look out your cell window. And so that night at 10:30, I looked out my window, and I see these fireworks shoot up. And I'm like, oh my God, like those are for me. He's shooting them off for me. And I was so amazed by it. And I immediately sent him an email and I said, any man that's going to set up fireworks for me can definitely have a chance at being my boyfriend.
Oh, so you had literal fireworks.
Yes.
I love that. Okay, so now tell me about your engagement story.
Okay. So the first time we got engaged, so like the first initial proposal, it was in October of 2021, and we were just sitting at the table and we were talking, and he took me by the hands and he just told me how like close we have become to each other, how important each other has been in each other's lives. We've been knowing each other for about 2 years, and so that's a long time to talk to someone, every day for 2 years. And so I know so much about his life, he knows so much about my life, and it's just kind of like we knew we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. And so I think that I knew that it was coming, but I wanted him to ask me. I didn't want to be the one that was like, okay, will you marry me? I didn't want to say that. So I waited for it. And so finally he asked me, and I said yes. And the rest is history.
Yes, it is. So now tell me about the time that he proposed with a ring.
Okay, so the second proposal was with a ring this time because he always felt like bad that the first time it wasn't with a ring. And he's like, I really wanted to do it with a ring because it would just make it so much more special and real. And so I was like, okay. So in December, it was the week of my parole hearing, and we had planned a weekend visit anyway because he came out of support to be with me. In addition to Christy being there at my parole hearing, it was good so I could have as much support as possible around that time. So we had the whole weekend to ourselves, and I was surprised to find out that he really wanted to propose to me again with a ring. So he came in and sat down, and he just like the first time, he took me by the hands and just told me that he loved me so much and that he's in love with the person that I am today. He doesn't know the old Gypsy, the Gypsy from the headlines or the stories. The only Gypsy he knows and got to fall in love with is the person that he's been talking to for 2 years. And so he's like, will you please make me the happiest man in the world and be my wife? And I said, yes, of course. And he took the ring off of his chain that he was wearing, and he split the ring on my finger, and I got to wear it for 2 hours until it was confiscated by the guard.
And why was it confiscated?
It was confiscated because you can't bring jewelry into inmates, and you actually have to be married. It's one of their rules that you have to be married in order to even wear a ring. And so being engaged didn't count. So since the ring was technically contraband, they had to confiscate it from me. And that ring is now disposed of. It's so sad they didn't give it back to him. They just disposed of it. I'm very upset about that. And then
I'm sure someone. I'm sure someone from the prison is the lucky recipient of that ring.
I wonder.
Some prison staff.
I'm sure. If I would only know the story.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, after all that, after all the ill will that your mother sort of wished upon you, did you ever think that you would be here with your happily ever after?
I don't think that after everything that, like, my mother had told me back when I was living with her, she wished me such ill will on finding my own happiness, my own place in life with my own person. It's not something that she wanted from me, and I don't necessarily know why. I can't think for her, but all I can say is that I feel like I have overcome a lot, and for me to be married, about ready to get out of prison, and looking forward to my life with my husband and my family, and possibly making my own family soon. I can definitely say is an achievement on my part. That my mother's words didn't get me down or make me stay down.
Okay. Would you be able to say a line? There's a couple of lines that we could really use sort of just as a line to help the story move along. And one of them is, it's something I never thought I would have after all that has happened.
Okay. It is something that oh my God, I hate doing this.
I know. I hate asking you to do this. That's why I'm trying to, like, I was trying to get it, like, I mean, if you want to say it again, just find your own words to say it. But that's essentially what we need, is like a succinct line that is basically saying, this is something I never thought that I would have after everything that's happened.
This is something I never thought that I would have after everything that has happened.
Perfect.
Boom.
And boom, nailed it. And then the other sort of line that we could really use is, you know, there's a moment where you're talking about Ryan accepting your past. And you say, you know, he accepts all the good stuff and the not so good stuff. We would love it if you could say something like, and there's a lot of that, meaning the not so good stuff in your past.
Okay, so there's so you just kind of want me to express that that there is a lot of bad that Ryan had to overcome in order to accept me fully.
No, it's more that he accepts the good and the bad. And that there's, but you've already said that. We have you saying that. And really what we need is sort of just like a little ending on that. So he accepts all the good and the not so good, and there's a lot of that.
And there's a lot of that, you said?
That. Yep, that. The not so good stuff. And you can say, and there's a lot of the not so good stuff, you know?
Okay. And there is a lot of that.
Perfect. You want to do it one more time with and there's a lot of the not so good stuff.
And there's a lot of not so good stuff.
Perfect. Nailing it. You're going to see a process. Okay. So this is one of the things that I think you're really, really good at, Gypsy, is there's many things, but two in particular when it comes to telling your story. One of them is really putting yourself back in that moment and being very honest and raw about what you were feeling and why you did what you did back then. The other part of that is you're able to look back on it and have a lot of insight and a lot of really a lot of perspective about that time. And so now I'm going to ask you to do some of that, okay? And part of it is going to be about your interrogation. And I know we talked about a little bit about this last time. You actually gave some really great stuff about the nervous talking and that guard that was posted, the cop that was posted at your door. Like, that was all great. When you look back on the Gypsy of that time, specifically when you're sitting there in this room waiting to be interviewed by the detective, what do you make of her?
when I look at myself in that moment of waiting to be interrogated, all that I see is a scared girl. Like I've watched the video before, maybe not the whole thing, but I have watched some of it, and all I could do is say like, oh, my heart feels for her, because it's like having both memories of what it was like in that moment, but also viewing with fresh eyes now. All I can do is just put the two together and see myself as I really just was so scared. And I was scared of the consequences, but I think that I was more scared of not having anyone to lean on, to fall back on, to guide me. Because my mother had guided me and told me what to do and, was that steering wheel my whole life. And then that transferred from her to Nick. And so now Nick is locked up. He's somewhere in that building, and I don't know where he is. And so I have no one to look to save me or guide me of what was my next step to do. So watching myself, I'm like, oh, poor girl. I can just see how desperate she is just for someone to tell her it's going to be okay, and to tell her that, like, she's not a horrible person. She's just in a rough situation right now, but it will get better.
That's the crystal ball, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Nick, were you worried about him at the time? When you guys were separated and both at that sheriff's office? What were your thoughts about him?
When we were arrested, I was very concerned about Nick. I was trying to look for him in the police car. I was trying to look for him and anywhere that they had taken us, like to court or to our cells. I was concerned about what was going to happen with him, if they were treating him okay, if he was going to get a good lawyer. So my mindset was more focused on him than it was on me at the time.
Have you seen his interrogation footage?
I have not seen his interrogation footage.
Well, that's interesting. Why is that?
I'm probably just because I have very limited access to court documents and things of that nature. I did get my hands on a transcript, however, so even though I wasn't able to watch the footage of his interrogation video, the only reason why I was able to watch some of mine is because I watched the Dr. Phil episode and they had shown a clip from my interrogation video. So other than my interviews that I have, some of the interviews that I've done that I've been able to watch, they don't really focus so much on Nick. And so I did read some of the transcripts, and it's kind of shocking to me how calm he was, how collected he was, how straightforward he was. There was something that I spotted right off the bat and was like, you're lying. Like, you're lying.
What was that? What was he lying about?
There was just, I don't have it in front of me, and it's been several years since I looked at it. But,
Sure. I wasn't sure if you maybe remembered what that moment was.
One of the things, he's a big narcissist. And so one of the things I had picked out was whenever he said that he was kind of going through what had happened and what we were doing in the course of the days that we were on the run. And it was whenever he was explaining the events that happened at the hotel and after the crime had happened. And he moves on to say, after I made her climax, after we had penetrative sex, orally, anally, vaginally. And I'm like, we didn't, though. We didn't have anal sex. You didn't come in me. We didn't do this. I gave you oral sex. I will agree with that. But if you look at some of the transcripts, and you just see he's boasting about being so good in bed. Okay, and I'm just like, you couldn't even get it up, dude.
Mm. Mm. So he was, so it seems like a strange thing for somebody to talk about who is sitting in an interrogation room about his involvement in a murder.
Yes, it is strange. I mean, I guess you can say the only reason why it would be relevant is because of the fact that it was, oral sex was something that I gave him on, on the run, in the hotel at his mother's house. Yes, but I don't know, to boast like I made her climax and stuff. No, he didn't. But that's how he is. He's a narcissist, and so he tries to talk himself up, and he has a superiority complex. And so I reading that, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like this is sad. Like you're being interrogated about a murder, and all you want to talk about is yourself, and you want to talk yourself up and make yourself seem this, this badass, awesome dude.
Mhm. So, do you remember him talking about how much he cared about you and loved you?
I did read a small portion of that where he did say because, he did the murder because he was in love with me. I did read that.
Why do you think, what do you make of Nick's claim that he was so in love with you, that he cared about you so much?
Reading what he said and those claims of that he committed the crime because he was just so in love with me, it's very complicated for me to sort out how I feel about that. Because in one aspect, I feel like he probably did care about me and wanted to get me out of that situation. But then a bigger part of me thinks that I could have been anyone, and he would have still committed the crime had I asked him, regardless of the situation, because of his past with discussing murder with me. And not murder of my mother, murder of his ex-girlfriend. So murder was something that he always wanted to do as a fantasy. And I think that I was his perfect opportunity.
Were you surprised at how quickly he confessed?
I wouldn't say that I was surprised how quickly he confessed. I think that we both kind of broke under the pressure. We both knew that there was a story that we were going to tell the cops. So it doesn't surprise me that we both kind of broke under the pressure, like anybody would.
And what do you make of his confession?
What is there to make of his confession? I'm surprised that he didn't show more remorse, because I think as just a human being, the lack of remorse from him, considering the fact that he's the one that did the actual kill, I would think would be more. I don't know.
But at the time, you didn't show remorse either.
I didn't. And I think a big part of that is because I really didn't understand what had happened to my mother. I didn't understand how brutal the crime was, because I had been shielded from it. I didn't see my mother's body after the crime. So in my mind, I guess to cope with it, I kind of felt like she was still asleep in her bed. I had not had those images of her bloody and stabbed to death in my head to make it real.
What if you had seen her body? Do you think that would have changed anything?
Absolutely. That is something that I think about all the time. I think about had I witnessed what she looked like after, would I have just crumbled to the ground and cried and turned myself in. Part of me feels like I really would have.
And the other part of you?
The other part of me feels like I would have just been still too scared and just ran anyway.
That's really honest.
Mm-hmm. And even to this day, like, that is my worst, something that haunts me. Because it's like my attorneys protected me from knowing the autopsy results, the full detail of the murder. And I didn't even know that she was merely decapitated until I went to trial, for Nick's trial, and testified on the stand. And the prosecuting attorneys had asked me questions. And I answered those questions, but one of those questions was like, you didn't ask Nick to cut your mother's neck down to the bone. When I tell you I wanted to throw up on the stand, I had to take the biggest deep breath because that was something that was kept from me. I didn't know that. I thought that she was stabbed maybe 3 times and she died. But to know and find out that she was stabbed 17 times and her neck cut down to the bone made me sick.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so much worse than I thought in my head. You know, and even planning the murder, I thought 2 stabs and she would die peacefully. That's what I thought. And I feel, learning now the full extent of it, it was overkill. And that's something that I would have never wanted. I wanted a peaceful death, a painless death. And that's not what happened. And I had no choice. That was not my choice to commit that amount of brutality. I never specified and I never asked Nick to stab her that many times or be that brutal. Never in none of the records you will ever see me say, oh yeah, make it painful or do this or do that. All I did was give him the knife.
Did you guys discuss any less brutal ways to kill her? I mean, I know you guys talked about arson. I know you guys talked about, shooting her. Were there ever talks about poisoning her? Were there ever talks about something that maybe wouldn't, not that that's any better, by the way, but something less violent?
Yes, we did. Nick and I did have discussions going through different options as a weapon. I asked him if he had or owned a gun, and he said no. He asked me if I could obtain one, and I did a little research into it. I would have needed a state identification, and I didn't have that, so I wasn't able to buy a gun. We talked about poison. He asked me if I could find an odorless, tasteless poison. That's really hard to come by. That's not something you could just obtain that easy. So that was out of the question. We had discussed arson, where I would just, have a candle fall on the floor and then run out of the house, and the house would go up in flames. So it's like we did have those discussions. And I think the knife was settled upon because it was the only thing that was obtainable.
And so you never considered that it wouldn't be a painless death?
It didn't register at all that it wouldn't be a painless death. I thought that when people get stabbed, that there's a moment of shock, but then they bleed and then they pass away. And I thought that was going to happen. I guess I just didn't realize that Nick would have been so violent and got into it as much as he did.
That's fair. You described Nick as a narcissist. How different is Ryan from Nick? Talk to me about that.
Oh my God. Ryan and Nick are complete polar opposites. I can't even put the two on a further spectrum of personality, and everything about the two is completely different. Ryan is loving and compassionate. Nick is selfish and narcissistic. Even down to, I guess you can say, the level of maturity that the two had. Nick, very immature. His focus was mainly on Facebook and watching porn. And Ryan, his priorities lie on taking care of his wife, which is me, making sure that I'm, getting the emotional support that I need, making sure that he cares for his nephew and gets his nephew to school and makes sure that, he does a good job at work. And so there's, his priorities are in order. So I definitely, and just the way the two in our relationship, so in my relationship with Nick, it was all about what I could do for him, about his sexual gratification, his sexual fantasies. It was all about fulfilling his needs and bending to his will and making him feel superior over me. Whereas I remember on a visit, Ryan and I were talking about kind of like that, who's superior above who. And he took me by the hands and he's like, Gypsy, I'm not superior over you. You're not superior over me. This is the way we need to think about our relationship. Imagine us and we are sitting in one of those old Western wagons. And we're up in front of the wagon and we've got the horses and we've got the reins. You're holding on to one set of reins. I'm holding on to another set of reins. And we're sitting side beside each other. And we're both leading the horses. So think of our relationship as the carriage. And so we're both leading the relationship side by side. We both need each other to guide each other and lean on each other for support. And no one is better than either one. And so think about it that way. And I just started to cry because never has anyone made me feel equal. And I really started to realize I'm with the right person that I need to be with. No one, he's not trying to control me. He's not trying to force me to be someone I'm not. He's trying to just be there with me, beside me.
Are there aspects of Ryan that are controlling now?
I think that Ryan has concerns that any person would have concern. And I think those concerns are, when I get out of prison, am I going to be loyal to him? Is my loyalty going to be on our marriage? Or am I going to get out of prison and I'm going to want to go crazy and I'm going to want to sleep around with other guys? And so I think that is a concern that anyone would have, considering the fact that I didn't date growing up. I didn't grow up, quote unquote, normal. So, and after being locked up for 8.5 years, the thought pops in your head. But, I have told him that he needs to be patient with me, that we need to talk and have open communication with each other. There'll be times that I may have an urge to want to explore maybe getting to know someone, but that is on me to have to understand that I am in a marriage now, and my happiness, my future is with Ryan. So that's something within myself that I need to control. That's not something he needs to control. It's something in me I need to control.
I have sort of one more question about the past, and then we're going to start moving more into you and Brian. The moment that you walked into court, or was it your arraignment or your preliminary hearing, basically the first time that everybody all your friends and family, well, not for you didn't have friends, but all your family saw that you could walk.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that moment? Can you step that up for me? You know, you walking into the courtroom. I know your dad and Chrissy were there. I don't know if anybody else was there, but what was that like for you?
The moment that I walked into the courtroom and I saw the judge for the first time, I had seen the bailiffs and I had seen all the officers, I kept my head down. And what I was thinking was just keep breathing. Just keep breathing. Keep focusing on your next step. And the chains, I remember I was shackled and the chains were so heavy on my tiny little body. I was so underweight. And I was still getting used to walking. And so going into court, it was a moment where I felt very low. And then having my family and what was my mother's friends and, you know, my friends shared with my mother, view me, and they were watching me walk into court and I'm being accused of murdering my mother. I know that must have been heartbreaking for them. And shocking to see me walking. You know, my dad tells me and recalls, you know, watching that footage and just being so happy that I was walking, but then having this moment of sadness, you know, learning about what the situation was.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find a way to have you say that sort of in a more condensed bite, which essentially conveys this idea that, you know, for years your mom kept you in a wheelchair almost your whole life, really. And everybody that knew you thought that you were sick, thought that you couldn't walk. And when you walked in on your own, they were just utterly shocked.
I think everybody was shocked just seeing me walk into court. Everybody that knew my mother and I had thought that I was just so sick, and so they saw me walk for the first time, and instead of it being a joyous moment, they were crying about it.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel sad to know that there was so many people that just was brokenhearted over this situation. Like, I was ashamed. I was sad. I felt guilty. I felt like everyone hated me at that time.
And now what do you think?
I don't think anyone hates me, but I do know that there are people that are still grieving the loss of that memory of my mother and I as this, you know, sweet mother and daughter. So we're just so happy to be together.
This is kind of a weird question, but do you think that there are people who miss your mom? Do you miss your mom?
Of course I think there are people that miss my mother. And I miss my mother. I miss my mother every single day. There are times at night that I wake up and I think that I hear her calling my name in a sweet way, not in a mad way, not in an angry voice, but in a calm, loving way. And I had Ryan Google it, and Google said that if you wake up to the sound of a voice calling your name, it's possible that your mind and your spirit is open to other spirits. And so I really hope that I keep hearing my mother try to talk to me.
That would be nice. That's a nice thought.
Someone even tried to say, like, maybe try to open myself up so I can reach back out. But it's such a fast reaction. It's like when someone calls your name, and of course you're going to respond. So I wake up immediately, so I don't even have the chance to ask a question or talk to her, really.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about going through a medium or something like that once you're out?
I think that that's something that I would love to do, is talk with a medium, because I want to reach out to my mother in a way that I could tell her I'm sorry. I can tell her that I miss her and that I do forgive her for her choices and the things that she did to me. But I also would want to ask for her forgiveness also. And I think that would bring me some peace. I know that my aunts and my uncles miss her. But there are times that also I kind of feel like, and this is just that raw honesty, but I feel like, why didn't they try harder to be a part of her and my life? Like, even to this day, they don't try to better her memory. Like my aunts, they don't try to better her memory. They'll just tell people, stop talking about my sister like that, or let her rest in peace. How about be proactive about the situation? They know that this case is internationally known, and instead of just allowing my mother's memory to be that of a villain, make a foundation in her name, dedicate it to research of Munchausen by proxy, mental health awareness, make her name better than what she left it. But nobody is doing that. And so if nobody is going to do that, I will when I get out. I'm going to take that role. And I won't only stand up for me as a victim of Munchausen by proxy, but I'm going to stand up for her as someone who was mentally ill and spread awareness for her name to be better than what she left it.
Why do you think her family hasn't taken those steps to be more proactive?
I think for the same reason that they didn't reach out to her or do anything to be a part of her life back when she was alive. They're just too lazy. They don't care enough to concern themselves with anything more than their next door neighbor. And that's just how I feel about it.
That's fair.
That's
fair. Definitely fair.
Because it has to. I know that if my sister was states away from me, which she is currently, I would check up on her. I call my sister on a regular. I know what my sister's doing. I know everything about my sister because I love my sister. And that's what family does. Even if we're states away, even if we grew up very different lives, I'm going to make a point to make sure I am very present in her life.
Why do you think that they didn't make that point? Because the other siblings are in each other's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think they didn't make that effort with your mom?
As my mother always told me that growing up, her two sisters were very close with each other, but they didn't really bond with her as much. So she was kind of left out of those sibling activities and sibling bonding moments. And so maybe she just wasn't as loved or as welcomed or as accepted as the other siblings, her other family members. Because everyone kind of lives in Golden Meadow. Everybody's, living in a small town where everybody's in each other's business. Everybody's in each other's lives. And so my mother and I were states away. So I think maybe out of sight, out of mind.
But you just said that your sister is out of sight, but she's not out of mind. And you guys didn't grow up together.
Very true. Very true. Like I know a lot about my sister. Hell, I even knew how much her prom dress cost whenever she went to prom. So it's like I know a lot about my sister, and it's because she's family. My brother and my sister. I love them both, and I'll make sure that I'm in their life even though I'm in prison.
To what extent do you think your mom was responsible for that? In other words, do you think that she isolated herself and you guys?
Absolutely. It's not only, my aunts and uncles' fault that they were sort of disconnected out of my mother's life. I think that the door swings both ways. It's a two-way street, and my mother had a way of exiling herself and really pushing people away. My mother always felt like her sisters and brothers didn't love her because they didn't share that same bond that they seemed to have all together. So she always felt kind of left out. And she took that to heart even in her older years. And so she herself just kind of closed herself off. And that's where it comes in. In that way, I'm a little bit like my mother. I do push people away. Hell, I do it with Ryan all the time. I push Ryan away fiercely, but I don't really want him to go away. So I think it's on the other person to be very vigilant and stand by who you love. And it's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I love you, and you're going to accept my love, or else I'm not moving. So I think
just so you sound like a stalker. You're going to accept my love, or else.
It's what I need. It's what someone like me needs. I don't know. And I told that to Ryan from day one. I said, I think that I need someone like you, someone that is going to see through all the BS and walls that I put up, because my walls are so tall and it's surrounded with an electric fence and barbed wire, and they've got dogs. And so I need someone to be vigilant in saying, no, I love you, I'm here for you. And I wish that my mother's family would have done that for her.
Do you feel in any way that they're doing that for you, or that they will do that for you once you're out?
I feel like some members of the family will do that for me. They will show me that they love me. They will show me the support that family should give one another. And then there's other members of the family that I just kind of feel are going to keep up the same attitude of keep their distance, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. That seems to be a theme, right? With your mom's family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay, good. You up for a few more questions?
I'm still good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, now we're moving into your and Ryan's relationship. Did you happen to write down your wedding vows?
I did write down my wedding vows. I do not have a copy of it, however.
But what do you mean? You don't have a copy at all?
No.
Gypsy, why?
I know. I had gave my copy to the chaplain, and he kept them.
Oh, my gosh. Is that something that you can get back or no? The reason I ask is because we had Ryan, we filmed him writing some of his vows, and we'll feature some of that, and we would like to do the same with you, hearing your voice reciting the vows. If you can't get a copy of them back, do you remember enough of them to where you could recreate some of that?
Ryan and I did a recording that we read them on a recording, if that would help.
You did?
We did, and I can have him send that to you or Carolyn, either one.
Yes,
if need be.
Either one of us would be amazing, but he would need to do it, very, very soon.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, because unfortunately, we gave our vows to the chaplain, and it had to be 30 days before the wedding. Part of the process, you can write your own vows, but the chaplain has to read them in order to approve them, make sure there's no cuss words, things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, we fully expected, here we are, wedding day, and we fully expected to read our vows to each other, and the chaplain forgot the vows. And so we were not able to read our vows on wedding day. And so what we did was one night, we were just talking, and I'm like, I would really like us to do it tonight. And so we recorded it and we read them to each other over a recording. So it was.
Well, I would love to have that, but I have to say the quality of our recordings is a little bit better than what you and Ryan would have. So I would love it if you could, and I'm not asking you to do it today, But if maybe like the next time we talk, if you're able to write down some stuff that you can just read to me, it doesn't have to be all of it, but just sort of capturing the same essence of what you said.
I did I can have Ryan screenshot, because I did send it also in an email to him. So he can screenshot my email, send the email to me, and then I could read it verbatim.
Yes, that would be amazing. Actually, wouldn't it be in your sent? Do you have access to your sent email?
I clear out my sent box all the time.
Oh, you're too good.
Not very helpful.
So yes, have Ryan. All he would have to do actually is copy the text, paste it into a new email, and just send it back to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll have him do that.
So let's plan on that. Yeah, let's see if we can do that on our next call. That would be amazing.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so then moving into sort of this Dr. Fabian assessment, which I know one of the times that we talked, you said that you learned, and I don't know if it was Carolyn that told you, or it must have been Carolyn, that his assessment wasn't all positive in terms of the outlook on your marriage. And what do you know about what his sort of prognosis was, and what are your thoughts about that?
The only thing that I guess I kind of heard about his, his conversation that he kind of pulled from and his opinion of it, is that I'm not going to have a successful marriage. I'm not going to have a successful relationship because I'm just too broken, I guess. And he didn't say those exact words. I'm just paraphrasing. I'm saying what I took from what I know of what his opinion is. So I'm just saying that it seems that I'm too broken to be a healthy partner for anyone. And I think that there are many people that have gone through challenges in their life, and they've experienced trauma, and they have overcome those odds. I feel like anyone can't know me as a person after just 20 minutes of talking with me. I think that you have to know me down to my core. There are things that I need to work on for myself and go through therapy and learn about myself and really put in the work. However, there is no reason that I can see that I can't overcome those very difficult odds. I don't think that I'm a messed up person. I don't think that I am a bad person. I don't think that I am bad for Ryan. I think that I bring to the table support, love, commitment. I think that Ryan knows that. I just know that to put a stamp on someone and say you're just too broken to be loved or to love in return. How do you know that? I get that people have a PhD. Great, you have a PhD in science and all this stuff, but there's things that happen every day that you can't explain. And you don't know me. So, and I don't take it personal. I just feel like it's so easy for people that don't know me to put a label on me. And then the people that do know me just shake their heads and they're like, you don't know a damn thing about who Gypsy is and how strong and independent and how persistent and resilient she is to accomplish a goal. And if that goal is living my best life possible with my version of what I consider my normal, then, I guess all I can say is sit back, pop some popcorn, and I'll prove you wrong.
Right. Good for you. So do you remember when you had your phone session with Dr. Fabian and you guys were talking about Ryan? And he said that he was worried that Ryan might be controlling, even though he'd never met him, but just based on what he was learning. Do you remember that moment, and can you tell me, like, what you thought of that when he said it?
I don't exactly remember that moment, but if he said that he was concerned that Ryan might be controlling, I think that he would have to get to know Ryan and spend time with him and know how we interact with each other. Because also you have to know how I respond to being controlled now. I'm a lot different than I was before. I don't tolerate it. I'm very quick to cut strings if I feel like I am being controlled. I'm quick to jump ship because of what I didn't in the past. So the first sign of any kind of control, I'm out. And so I guess I wouldn't worry so much about if Ryan's controlling, but I think I need, be concerned about me knowing what is a healthy amount of controlling versus, I guess unhealthy.
Well, I mean, to be clear, no amount of controlling is good, right? Like there should never be any controlling behavior.
Well, I mean, define that, because it's kind of like, okay, well, if I want to go and pop fireworks in my face, obviously I don't want him to be like, sure, just go pop fireworks in your face, play with flames, and go jump in a pool of alligators. It's just kind of like guidance and controlling is two different things. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, so, but wasn't that a concern of yours at one point? Weren't you thinking about, hey, maybe he is being controlling? Isn't that something that you considered?
I was worried for a very brief period about certain things that he was trying to control. He was feeling insecure because I was communicating with other men quite frequently, and a few exes as well. And so I think that my reasoning for calling him controlling was because I wanted to talk to my ex-boyfriend, and I didn't want him to be mad about it. And so that was, again, me just wanting to do what I wanted to do and didn't care about his emotions and feelings and thoughts towards it. So that was something that he and I had to talk about, because other than me talking to other men in a disrespectful way towards our marriage and our relationship, other than that, I have no concern of him being controlling.
What about when he asked you to not accept money from your dad anymore?
He never asked me to not do that.
Yeah, you told me that he had asked, he wanted to be your sole provider.
No, he's fine with me still getting money from my parents. I told him, I'm like, that's my money. My dad wants to still take care of me, and he's fine with it. What he didn't want, what he doesn't feel comfortable with is me asking him to text my dad, hey, can you put some money on Gypsy's account, because he wants to provide for me. So it makes him feel like less of a man, because he's having to go to my dad and be like, hey, can you take care of your daughter because I can't? Like, that's what he doesn't like.
So he's okay with you having your own money and your own source of income? Yes.
Oh, yes, of course.
Great. Good. So from that conversation with Dr. Fabian, was there anything that struck you the most or that stood out to you?
I think the only thing that really stood out at me is when he asked me how did I feel like, I guess, I was going to live some kind of a normal life. What did I expect life to be like once I got out of prison? And I just really wanted to express to him that I don't think that it's going to be some kind of fairy tale. I know that it's going to be hard, but I'm willing to put in the work. And what people don't understand is, to me, even difficult times are an experience that I'm enjoying having. It might not be enjoyable in the moment because I'm going through something difficult. It's hard. But would I trade it for a life back with my mother? Absolutely not. I'm happy to go through the trials and tribulations of everyday human life every smile that is grinned, every tear shed, everything that I go through in life from here on out is because I have the freedom to do so now. So I'm not sad about going through the trials of life. I embrace it. And so I think that that's what I was trying to express to him, that I'm not going through life thinking that it's going to be a Disney cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I didn't know what he expected from me either. I don't know if he expected me to be like, oh, well, with me, poor me.
You don't know who, I'm sorry, Gypsy, you don't know who expected.
Oh, I didn't know what Dr. Fabian expected from me. I don't know if he expected me to be like, oh, well, with me, poor me, my sad little life. But I'm not that way as a person. So for me, being optimistic about my life is just who I am. That's my personality. But I'm also a realist, too. So I know that I'm going to be going through some complicated times and some challenging times, but I accept those.
Yeah, you do. And you face them head on, and you continue to do the work on yourself. Why do you think, like, was there a reason other than financial why Ryan backed out of the session with Dr. Fabian?
I feel like at the time, we were trying to talk about, I guess, how much involvement he would have in the documentary, how much involvement should he have, because I think that after we got married, there was this transition period that he still kind of felt like just the boyfriend. And so he's like, I really just don't want to overstep. I don't want to feel out of place. I don't want to go too far and have people think that I am overbearing or going to be the next person to control you or whatever. So I think that he and I had that conversation the night before he was supposed to do the interview with Dr. Fabian. And, I talked with Carolyn about it. I think there was just some discussion about I was getting paid for the show. He became a huge part of it very quickly without really us preparing for it. And so knowing that, I was like, it's kind of not fair that you're not getting compensated for anything. I'm like, you're putting in all this work and you're almost just as much of an important character as I am. So why don't you hold back some things and see what the studio is willing to negotiate with you. So really that call with Dr. Fabian got caught in the crossfire of negotiation.
So you don't think that there was anything, like any part of Ryan that was just maybe scared of what Dr. Fabian might say?
No, he actually was, Ryan was actually looking forward to the call with Dr. Fabian, to pulling some advice from him and kind of figuring out, did he have any professional opinion of our relationship and what he could maybe do to prepare for me having a life with him.
And so now Ryan has sought out his own therapy. Tell me a little bit about that. And obviously you don't have to go into detail or anything, but just we want to convey that, that he is sort of seeking to explore some of his own issues and, come into this marriage as emotionally healthy as possible.
Mm-hmm. I think Ryan is putting his best foot forward to be the man that I need him to be. And I asked him that if he would be willing to get couples therapy or start doing therapy for himself, because whenever we are going through a disagreement, he talks to his friends, I talk to my friends and my family, and those are, of course, biased opinions. So I just wanted him to have someone that he can lean on, talk to, a professional that would not have a biased opinion on anything, but also give him the best professional support and opinions of me, of the relationship, steer him in the best possible way to go about things whenever it comes to me. Because I'm a lot to handle. I am very emotionally taxing, and I'm very mentally taxing. I am a very push-pull kind of person, so I might push you away when I want you to come closer. And so he needs resources to navigate how I am as an individual.
Well, that makes it sound like you're a problem.
I'm a woman, but I'm like, yeah, I'm on another level.
You're a handful.
Yes, and then when I'm on my period, it just gets worse. For the first year of our relationship, on the 20th of every month, because we're pretty regular, but on the 20th of every month, I would have this like little breakup with him. It wouldn't be a real breakup, but it would be like for 24 hours. And it was because I was on that time of the month, and he's like, I know, on the 20th of every month, you're going to break up with me.
Well, at least he knew what to expect. Oh, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay. We want to explore this, this situation that came up for you and Ryan shortly before the wedding, having to do with you reaching out to your exes, particularly to Ken.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still, or did you still at that time sort of feel haunted by some of your past loves, or feel like maybe a chapter wasn't totally closed yet?
I have always had love, nothing but love for my past relationships, except for Nick. We're not going to even count that. But as far as Ken is concerned, Ken was the first relationship, really long-term relationship that I had after Nick. And so this relationship was very iconic in my life. And I felt like out of respect for the relationship that he and I had and the love that we shared once upon a time, I wanted to be the one that told him that I was getting married. And so, yes, I reached out to Ken, and he answered the phone, and I felt like we had a really great phone call that we kind of said what we needed to say to each other. We wished each other the best, still have nothing but love for each other, but we're living our own lives separate from each other. We don't need to talk every day, every month, or even every year. We just left it as we have nothing but great memories and great love for each other.
And do you think that's the last time that you'll contact him?
Yes, that is the last time that I will contact Ken. We have said everything we needed to say. We have had closure with that relationship. I wish him nothing but happiness. He wishes me nothing but happiness. And we just went our separate ways.
Was that the last relationship that you really needed closure on, or are there others?
That was the only relationship that I felt was deep enough that I even wanted to express that I'm happy with Ryan. It was a moment of, don't worry about me. Like, I'm okay. Like, I kind of feel like my past loves have, in a sense, haunted me just because I think that prison made a big difference on the success of the relationship. I kind of felt like the relationships that I've had while in prison, we were cheated. We were cheated time together. We were cheated a true, fair chance together because I'm locked up. I can't be physically intimate. I can't be physically around. And so removing that element can make or break a relationship. It can make you stronger, like it did for me and Ryan, where we had to make up for what we lacked physically together and make up for emotionally together. And Ryan and I had that strength, and we made that commitment to each other. But Ken and I, we weren't that strong. The lack of physical connection around all the time because I am locked up broke us.
Do you think it would have been different if you and Ken had been in a relationship in the outside world?
I guess we'll never really know if it would have fully worked out differently between Ken and I had we experienced the relationship on the outside. I'd like to think that it would have, but people grow and people change, and sometimes people grow and change apart. And I absolutely think that's what happened between Ken and I. We just grew apart. He grew in his personality, I grew in mine, and we just weren't growing together.
When you say that you wish that it would like to think that it would have been different on the outside, does that mean that, like, is there a part of you that feels like Ken was maybe a soulmate?
Once upon a time, I did think that Ken was a soulmate. And I think that we were so close at one time, and we were so connected at one time that, yes, I can definitely say that I felt like he was a soulmate at that point in time in my life. But I don't feel that way now, obviously.
I mean, I think it's possible to have more than one soulmate.
I don't even know if I believe in soulmates anymore. Honestly.
When did you believe in soulmates?
Huh?
When did you believe in soulmates?
I think growing up, I believed in soulmates, and in the early years of my prison stay, I believed in soulmates. I grew up on fairy tales, and true love can accomplish anything. And I really was raised on that, I guess. And when I got my heart broken for the first time, that's whenever it changed. I started to see things in a realistic way about relationships. And because I felt like on my part in the relationship with Ken, the true love was there. And then the true love faded on his part. So I think that was like a snap back to reality for me that, oh my God, true love can't, accomplish anything, because I was like, well, mine didn't.
Right.
I put it all in and mine didn't. And I'm definitely regretting that K tattoo that I put on my ankle. Shit.
How do you feel? Like, what do you think? What's your idea of what makes a good marriage now versus what it was when you were growing up?
I think my ideals of what makes a great marriage is communication and honesty. Without communication, there's no way to reach honesty. So as long as you are communicating respectfully how you feel to one another, and you are honest with your partner about what you're feeling, and also taking into account how they feel, but also remembering that you're not responsible for how they respond to any of it. So, for instance, I can tell Ryan that, I am not exactly into the type of TV shows that he likes to watch, even though he's a huge wrestling fan. I couldn't give two craps about wrestling, but that's his thing. That's his fanboy thing. He loves wrestling. But I've told him that's your thing, and he's like, well, I don't particularly like ice skating like you do, figure skating like you do, but that's your thing. So, I mean, but also that's very small things. But being honest with myself helps me be honest with him. So until that I get to that moment that I am honest with myself, I can't be fully honest with him.
So how would you say that this idea of what makes a good marriage has changed from when you were young?
I think that in the past, I just thought that relationships and marriage was so easy because as long as you love each other, that would be enough. I guess I didn't realize that, you have to put in a certain amount of work. And I think that everything was built off of what I saw in a Disney movie. And so they don't show Prince Charming and Cinderella getting into a disagreement about dishes and wallpaper for their mansion. You don't see them struggling with money or, growing in a personality and how to grow together. So you don't see any of that. And that's something that I had to learn. So that's something that has changed from then to now. And so really taking real world concepts and applying it to my actions and thoughts and behaviors in my marriage has really been something that I think has led to the success of my relationship with Ryan.
So how does that idea of like love doesn't conquer all and it takes work and communication, patience, how does that translate to knowing that this person is the one, that your past relationships are past, there's no hope there anymore, you're now married and it's final and you're moving forward with this person?
I think with all of the things I have learned about myself throughout the years, I've been able to see things in how I react to certain situations that I find myself in my relationships. So, for instance, in my relationship with Ryan, I might react to a situation a certain way that a couple years ago I would have handled it completely different, and I probably would have handled it wrong back then. So now I have to look at it with fresh eyes and approach it the best and mature way to handle the situation. I think in terms of knowing if he's the one or not, I have to look at how he acts around me, how he responds to things that we go through with each other. I have to view him as human and that he will make mistakes as well. I'm not asking for perfection from him, but I am asking for those basic things. Respect me, be loyal to me, treat me with dignity, love me. So in a sense, I do think that true love wins out, but I don't think that it's just true love. You need those other elements: honesty, compassionate, understanding, loyalty, honesty. You need those other things to lift love up. Because if you just have love, then okay, you just have love, but anything can happen. You could love someone and lie to them every day of your life. So that's just something that I have to remind myself of in my relationship with Ryan and in my marriage, is that I need to bring all of those other elements to the table in addition with love. And so does he. And so that's how we work in our marriage.
Which I think is positive and healthy and a great start.
And I think also, I feel like he's the one because we have this connection that I have never felt with anyone, not even Ken. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a whole lot. And so we are just able to be on the phone, but feel just as connected as if we would be in person. We have our own way of communicating intimacy via the phone. So whenever I'm sad and I'm crying, he'll tell me, come here. And I'm like, I'm here. And he's like, let me hold you. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, And that's our way of hugging each other. And that's something that Ken never did for me. That's something that Nick never did for me. It's knowing when I need you to be there and be in the moment with me.
And Ryan knows how to do that.
And Ryan knows how to do that for me.
What about Ryan? And he's been open about, his struggles with addiction in the past. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that addiction, and how do you think that either helps or hurts your bond with each other?
Ryan Ryan has always been very honest with me about his past struggle with addiction. He is 12 years sober, and so I offer him nothing but the highest praise for that. I don't think less of him for it. Ken struggled with addiction as well, so it's a concept that I'm kind of already comfortable with because it was kind of similar to Ken's past. So it was easy to accept and also very relatable for me because I had that past struggle with addiction as well. So it was very relatable, easy to understand. I think that it would be a lot harder if he was still in the trenches and getting high, and I think we wouldn't be married because I would have to put myself first and realize that that's not what I would want for myself. But the fact that he is a success story, it inspires me, and the fact that he shows the strength to overcome addiction gives me strength to overcome my addiction. And it's brought us stronger together because we have had conversations about the past of getting high and what are those emotions that led us to getting high. And the both of us really just wanted to numb ourselves from pain. For whatever reason, I was going through something, he was going through his own issues back then, but our reasons were the same. It was just to numb ourselves from pain. And so after we had that initial conversation about our past with addiction, it brought us so much closer together because it made us real and raw in each other's eyes.
Are you worried that might also be a challenge for you guys to stay sober?
I am not worried whatsoever about Ryan relapsing or getting back into his addiction. However, I will say that I am going to do everything I can possible to stay clean when I get out. I don't imagine myself going back to addiction with drugs and opiates. I have gone through too much over these last years that I have found myself, lost myself, picked myself off the bathroom floor where my head was in a toilet throwing up from being high. I don't want to go back to that. And I don't want to be that again. So it's something that I can't say, oh, I'm never going to get high again. But it's something that I'm definitely not planning to. And I'm going to try my best to refrain from it and lean on Ryan. I told him, I had this conversation with him, if I ever feel like I want to get high, please talk to me. Talk me down, make me see the light, make me recognize who I am as a person, and pull me back from that.
And what about him? You said you're not afraid of him relapsing. Why is that?
He has come too far in his recovery that getting high is not something that crosses his mind. It's not even a craving to him anymore. So I've never been worried that he was going to go back into his addiction. And me being around him, possibly if I have a weak moment of wanting to get high, I know him well enough to know that just because I would have that craving, it's not going to make him have a craving.
And that's important, right?
It's very important. It's important to know that because I really feel like if I was worried that Ryan would budge and relapse, we wouldn't be married. I am in love with this man, but I wouldn't put my own health at risk. I wouldn't put my future at risk just because of my relationship. I would see that I have an addiction problem and he has a problem that he hasn't overcome, and we can't be together. So, but that's not the case. So I'm very blessed to have a partner that has recovered and I can lean on if I ever feel those cravings again.
So important. So important to have that support. And in a way, I would imagine to have your partner understand what that craving is like, what the draw is like, and what the challenge is like is probably very helpful, right?
It is. It's helpful that he knows what it firsthand feels like and the thoughts that go through your head.
Great. Tell me about meeting Ryan's mom. When was the first time that you met her, and sort of walk me through that?
Okay, so I haven't met her in person just yet. However, we email all the time, and we talk on the phone. So the first time that I had talked to her over the phone was...
Sorry, Gypsy, can you just say the first time I talked to Ryan's mom?
Oh, yes. So the first time I talked to Ryan's mom on the phone was wedding day. And everyone asked me, like, have you talked to his mom yet? And I'm such a shy person that I'm like, no, I haven't spoke to his mom over the phone. I haven't introduced myself. I feel like I know so much about her and about the family, but I haven't been brave enough to just do it. And so Ryan's like, it's time. You need to talk to my mother. And I'm like, what happens if she doesn't like me? What happens if she thinks that my voice is too high? What happens if, I don't know, like a million bad things were popping into my mind. And he's like, it's going to be okay. She loves you. Like, he's talked so much about me to them, so it's like she practically knows me already. So it was after the ceremony. It was probably about an hour after the ceremony. And I had her number, and so I called her, and we just had a great little conversation. Her and I, like, she's so sweet. We kept up the conversation flowing great. She's like, I can't wait to meet you in person. Welcome to the family. I'm so happy that you're my daughter-in-law. She's like, you know, Ryan is going to make a great husband and father one day. She's like, I can't wait to just wrap my arms around you. And I was just like, I am so happy right now. You know, I'm so happy that she accepted me, because I was really, really worried that she wouldn't accept me because of my past. It's not, to me, I kind of feel like I viewed it in a negative way. I'm like, I wouldn't, if I had a son, I probably wouldn't want my son to be like, oh yeah, Mom, here's my new wife. We just got married in prison. Welcome to the family. So I was definitely nervous about her opinion of me, and wanting to make a good impression. But, you know, since then, me and her talk very easily now. I feel like she knows me well enough to know that there are times that Ryan and I go through these arguments, and it's because I am that push away, pull closer kind of person. And so when we do have an argument, when Ryan and I have an argument or disagreement, she will email me, and she'll be like, okay, tell me what's going on, and she'll, you know, be that support for us. Sometimes it's been a little much. We're just gonna, like, we need to sort out our own shit. But it's all in nothing but positive and support and love. And she actually did me a huge favor, because obviously I'm in prison, and so I can't go Christmas shopping for Ryan this Christmas. So I asked her for her help picking out a Christmas gift for him. And so I asked her advice. I'm like, what is a good gift do you think would be for, what he like, or what are some things that he might want, or what can I get him that would be meaningful? And she's like, what about a Christmas ornament with y'all names on it, a personalized Christmas ornament? And I'm like, oh my God, I was thinking that same thing. And so she went to New Orleans, and she picked out this Christmas ornament, and it has two stockings on it, and one has Gypsy and the other has Ryan on it, and it's like, it has a Christmas tree by it. It's adorable. And so she bought it, and she's going to, put it under the tree, and she's going to address it, from Gypsy. And so he'll have a gift from me to open on Christmas. And I'm like, that's so perfect.
Oh, that's so great. How are you hoping that your relationship with Ryan's mom evolve once you're out?
I think the relationship between Ryan's mom and I will blossom once I am free and I can be around her and we can spend time together. I know that she wants to teach me how to cook, and I am all too excited about that because I can't cook for shit. So she's going to teach me how to cook some Cajun food and some good food when I get out. And there's things that I want to experience with my mother-in-law and, get to know her fully and have that in-person time together. So I think that once I am able to, it's gonna be great.
Are you thinking that it might, or are you hoping that it might be like a mother-daughter relationship in a way that you never were able to have with your own mom?
I think so. I'm hoping that the relationship between me and Ryan's mom is going to get to that point where I'm going to feel like it's a mother that I never had, that we're going to have that bonding time together. And I'm going to feel like I really gained a mother figure in my life. I already feel that way now, but I think it's going to be great when I get out. That way, if there's anything that I really need a woman in my life to talk about with, to express emotions with, I'm going to want to go over to her house and just sit on the couch with her, sip tea and really talk and have those moments together that I can pull advice from her. I can pull that mentoring and that mothering from her.
I think that's great. And I think, especially if you guys are going to be living in Lake Charles, I think the chances of that are really good.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. And Ryan's already expressed, she's retired. And so if he's at work and, obviously I don't know how to drive yet, but say I'm still learning to drive and I don't have my permit, I don't have my driver's license. If I need to go somewhere and Ryan's at work, she's willing to drive me anywhere I need to go and be there for me at the drop of a hat. So I at least have that support and that resource to pull from, so I don't feel like, I'm putting the load all on Ryan.
Do you wish that you had, quote unquote, met her, in other words, talked on the phone with her before the wedding day?
I do wish that I could have met Ryan's mother before the wedding. I wish that I would have reached out a little sooner and been more incorporated with the family before Ryan and I got married. I think that, but the both of us kind of did that to ourselves, is we reserved our relationship from our parents, just, I guess, based on opinion. Learning from the past, learning from my past relationship with Ken. Ken was close with Christy. However, he was not close with my father. My father never really liked Ken, and so that made it a little difficult. So I guess I wanted to see where the relationship developed, and I didn't want to have that false hope to them in case it didn't work out, because it seemed like the person that would be my boyfriend or significant other, they would have to be incorporated with my family very soon. Just because of who I am, and there's things about me that I guess my family wants to make sure that I'm protected, I'm not being taken advantage of. So it's almost kind of like they're letting me stretch my wings, but not too far from the nest. They're afraid I fall. And they're like, let me meet this boy. Let me make sure this guy is good. Is he a bum? Okay, good. He's got a job. He's got a place. Where's he work?
Well, it's interesting that you say that anybody who you date would have to sort of be incorporated into your family pretty quickly, because you kept them a secret for a long time.
Yes. Like, though Christy and Dad didn't know that I had a friend named Ryan, they didn't know that we were as romantic as we really were.
Why?
I didn't want to be wrong I didn't want to be wrong in introducing them too quickly, too soon, too fast. I didn't want to make them feel like they were going to get to know another person and this person was going to break my heart like Ken did. And of course I felt like of course no one wants to watch their daughter go through another heartbreak. So I think for a long time, Christy was like, why don't you not date while you're in prison and keep things casual, and then when you get out, date? Well, things aren't that easy to control. You know, you can't control how feelings surface. And so I guess I just didn't want to concern myself with opinions that soon. I wanted to see where things went before I introduced someone else to them. I wanted to make sure that this person was worth introducing to them.
So, I mean, tell me why would you not just, you're right, you can't always control how feelings and emotions develop, but why not just date Ryan and even be engaged to Ryan and wait until you're out to be married?
I thought about it. I thought about just us keeping it casual, flirting around a little bit, but I think the both of us felt strong enough in our feelings that we wanted to make a commitment to each other. I think getting engaged was something that we did out of love. We did because we're in love. But getting married was a little bit of both. Getting married now versus when I get out was a choice that we made in order for us to live together. So like Christy kept telling me, why don't you live with him first and then see where things go? And I don't think that they understood that when someone is on parole, they have to parole to a family member. So it's just, I never thought, even whenever I was with Ken, even when I was dating Ken, I just didn't think it would be fair that I'm in a relationship and my significant other is waiting for me to come home and start a life together. But then I choose to go live with my parents for a year and a half. I just didn't think that that's fair because I'm asking this person to wait X amount of years, sleep alone in a bed, don't be intimate with anybody else. I'm asking them to essentially put their life on hold for me until I get out of prison. But then if I'm going with my parents, I'm asking them to further prolong that and make them wait even longer for us to start a life together. I never thought that was fair. And so I talked with Ryan about it, and I'm like, how would you feel if I lived with my parents? He asked me what I would want to do, and I told him, I'm like, I love you. I want to start my own life with you. I want to start a life with you where I'm sleeping every day in a bed with you. I'm waking up with you in the morning. I'm hugging you when you come home from work. I want that with you. And so that's where we are today. Like, that's the decision that we made. We made a decision to get married and give us that opportunity so I could be on parole but live with my husband.
So the last time we talked, or a couple of times ago, you said that actually wasn't going to happen. Are you guys back to that? Because talk to me about, because you've also been floating the idea of potentially living with your parents when you get out still, right? So you can be closer to home.
Yeah,
talk to me about that. And it's okay that it's ongoing. You can talk about how nothing has really been set in stone yet, and it might not be until you get out.
Right. Our Ryan and I's plans have definitely not been set in stone throughout the course of our relationship and the course of our marriage so far. There has been quite a bit of discussion about living situation. Would I live with my parents or would I live with him? And I keep going back and forth between the two. 1 week I'll want to live with my parents. The next week I'll want to live with him. So that's something that right now I want to live with him. But 2 weeks from now, that might be something different. I don't know. It's all very overwhelming to me right now.
What makes it change?
Remember how I said that whenever I feel like the slightest bit of something like wrong, I run for the hills? I think that's the big change is if Ryan and I get into an argument and I'm upset with him, then I'm like, well, I'm going to live with my parents. And then when everything's good, then I want to live with him. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm mature in this marriage right now. I'm figuring myself out, but I don't know. Right now, I don't even know.
You sound a little overwhelmed when you think about it, huh?
It is, because it's been the one thing that has been unclear. Hold on. You're talking on the speaker. Okay.
Yes, I can hear it.
It's been the
What is the one thing that's been unclear?
The one thing that has been unclear for years is my living situation. Where am I going to live when I get out of prison? And if I'm in a relationship with someone, then it's going to be with that person. If I'm not in a relationship, then it's going to be with my parents for at least a year. And so I'm figuring out the pros and cons of each one right now. I wish that I could live in both places. Honestly, I get the best of both worlds. And it is hugely overwhelming. And the last couple months has been very rocky between Ryan and I, and that's been my fault.
Has it been entirely your fault?
It has been entirely my fault because there are moments that I guess I feel like I rushed into the marriage because I get distracted by other men. And it's not fair to Ryan that I do that. And so, off record, I don't want to talk about this in the documentary, but another ex had came back into my life, and that's just for you to understand a little bit more, but this ex had came back into my life, and he's the guy that I started dating after Ken as a rebound. And he came back into my life, and he wanted to be friends, but, he's 45. He gave up on relationships. He's like, I'm not getting into anything serious anymore. I always just end up hurting the girl that I'm with. I go all in, and then I dump her, and then it's just a cycle that he perpetuates over and over again. So I went on a quest to try to help him find why he does that. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, okay, well, it's your expectations. You put too high of expectations on the potential woman that you want to be with. Is what you did with me, and it's what you do with all the other ones. But it was enjoyable because he and I haven't spoken in 2 years. And so having him back in my life, we had a pretty bad breakup. He was very cold-hearted of how he did it. He went silent and ghosted me for a year, then picked up the phone a year later and, wanted to keep it casual, but I wasn't ready for that. I felt like I hadn't gotten closure. And so I asked him for closure.
I guess he did warn you, right? He did kind of warn you.
Yeah, he did. And then I guess I kept going back for more. And so he told me, he's like, I gave you closure. You just needed to hear it twice. And I'm like, you're so
oh my God.
asshole. And anyway, so we didn't talk for another whole year. And then come the hurricane that hit Florida, he was in Sarasota. And so Christy's still friends with him on Facebook. Christy was friends with him before he and I even started dating. So Christy had checked up on him for the hurricane, and his parents' house got destroyed. But he was all right. And so that led to me and him talking again. And the first conversation that we had lasted 2 hours. And I told Ryan about it. And he got upset. He's like, what the hell do you have to talk to your ex about for 2 hours? So that led us on a 3-week binge of nothing but arguing about this ex-boyfriend of mine. And so that's where a lot of this uproar had came from. And so finally I decided that I realized I can't keep this friendship up. I wish him nothing but the best, but I have to do what I did with Ken with him. And ever since then, me and Ryan have been great. Like, my thought process has been focused on my marriage, focused where it needs to be, but that was on me. So that was not Ryan. I essentially put Ryan on the back burner, and I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do because I want to entertain this person right now, and I don't want to feel guilty, so I'm just going to push you aside right now.
So are you a person who cheats?
I'm not. I've never cheated before. I get distracted where I'm like, oh, he's cute, but I'll never, cross that line into cheating. I'm honest to a fault, and I'll tell my person, I think this person's cute, and they intrigue me, but then that fades, and then I realize, everything I want is with my person, with my significant other. So I feel like I'm the kind of person that will break up with my significant other in order for me to explore that other person to make sure I don't cheat.
So why do you think that your past keeps coming into play? Past relationships, I mean. I don't mean your other past. I mean specifically talking about relationships. Why does that keep coming up?
I think my past relationships keep coming up in my current relationship because I have a hard time accepting letting go of what once was and realizing that it's over, it's dead, it's whatever. I romanticize that time and I hold on to it. In a sense, I also told Ryan that keeping the pain that I have felt in those relationships, the breakups, the pain from the breakups, they have kept my walls strong. They have kept me from getting hurt again. Because, and I know it really doesn't make sense, keeping pain keeps me from getting hurt again, but it's a reminder that if I let my guard down, if I let myself love again, this is what happens. This is what happens when I fall in love. I get hurt. And my happiness doesn't matter. All that matters is that, they go live their lives happily ever after, and I'm stuck still pining over that time. And I can't figure out why. Why am I so unlovable? What was it that I did wrong? Because I felt like I was loyal. I put all my love and attention and affection. So it surely should have worked out. So it's not realizing what a breakup is about. And I guess I just really was very selfish and only thought about my own emotions about it. So I couldn't let it go. And so I kept harboring onto that pain, thinking that it was going to protect me from getting hurt in the future.
That is super insightful, Gypsy.
It's crazy. This is how my mind works. And I've done that. Poor Ryan. I've put him through so much, and I've made him feel like he was less than. I've made him feel like he was second best, and I had to finally tell him, it's not that I call my exes up because you're second best. It's like I'm that mouse in a cage that keeps pressing the pain button instead of the pleasure button because it reminds me not to try to leave my cage or think that anything could be better for myself. And he's like, Gypsy, you don't have to do that with me. And I'm like, I know, but I do it anyway. So, again, that's just more that I'm learning about myself and having to overcome. And it's that's where Dr. Fabian's opinion kind of has some truth to it. Because, yes, that is a toxic thing that I do, pushing people away, although I don't really want them to be gone. So that's something I'm learning so I can overcome it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so talking a little bit, since we're on the subject about, your exes and the work that you've put in for Ryan, but also for yourself, because you want to be happy with Ryan.
Right.
Tell me about that, why you decided to tell Ryan that you did have a conversation with Ken, because you could have kept that from him.
After I had the conversation with Ken, of course, I felt like it was something that I needed to tell Ryan. I just was trying to figure out when to do that, and appropriately how to express what the conversation was about, in the best light possible, because I didn't want him to feel like I was reaching out because I don't love him, that I'm not in love with him or want to marry him. I just simply wanted to express to Ken that, we'll always have a friendship there and we'll always think fondly of each other. So I think I was preparing myself for what I was going to say to Ryan. And I am the kind of person, and I do have times that I act before I think. And so I didn't think about the conversation that I would have with Ryan about me calling Ken before I even called Ken. So after the fact, I had to kind of figure out how I was going to word it and how I was going to approach it. So yes, I did withhold that conversation for a little while, but very soon I was going to tell him everything, and if he had any questions, I was, going to. I cannot talk right now. Fuck.
Well, you've been talking for more than 2 hours now. Yes, I'll bet.
So anyway, I did withhold a conversation from him at first, and then when I felt like it was appropriate, tell him that I had talked to Ken and what we talked about.
Mm-hmm. And what was Ryan's reaction?
Ryan's reaction was quiet. And when he is quiet, that is usually whenever he is really starting to think about something, and maybe his feelings did get hurt. And he did perceive it as I was reaching out because I still was in love with Ken. So it led to an argument between Ryan and I, and we had to really talk it out, and I think that I was going through some emotions myself. Hello?
Hello?
Okay, I just heard.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Yes, there's noise in the background.
You want me to stop talking?
Sorry about that. Keep going.
Okay. So we really had to talk it out, and I was going through my own emotions and expressing that I do feel like keeping my pain protects me from getting hurt. And so I think once I expressed that to him, he really started to understand how my psyche works. And so...
But before that, he was really, really upset, right?
He was upset. He was less upset about the call to Ken, and he was more upset that I had omitted it from him for a little while until I was ready to tell him.
And what was it like? Had you ever heard him that upset before?
No, I hadn't heard Ryan that upset before. But then again, I don't think I ever gave him a reason to be.
And so what was that like for you?
It was hard for me because I didn't want him to feel any negative emotions toward me or the situation. I wanted him to be understanding. I wanted him to see it from my perspective, which is kind of how I always am. I have a bad habit of having difficulty seeing things from another person's perspective. So at first I'm kind of like, well, why are you angry? Like, why are you mad? I don't get it. But then over time, I started to realize, like, oh, well, if he had did that with his ex-girlfriend, how would that make me feel? So, so there's that.
And so did you feel like there was something at stake for you at that point?
If there was what?
Was there something at stake? What was at stake for you at that point? With Ryan, with him being that upset, did it feel like he was going to call off the wedding?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, I thought that I was fearful that he would call off the wedding. I was fearful that he would feel like second best. I was fearful that he would view me as a liar and not trust me, and trust would be lost between us. there was a lot of things that were going through my mind that I was fearing at the time. But with how it is with him and I is we can have really powerful emotions and reactions at first, but all we have to do is communicate. As long as we communicate what each other's thinking and thought process is, he's quick to understand after.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that argument ultimately strengthened your relationship?
It did strengthen our relationship, very much so, because the next time, and there was a next time, so the next time that Ken surfaced in my life, since being married, I allowed Ryan to handle it. I gave it to him to handle because he's my husband. So apparently Ken had wrote a letter to the prison, not to me, but to the prison. And it was a very confusing situation. But Ken wanted to be removed off of my visiting list. Well, I had already done that 2 years ago. And so the caseworker had called me back to her office and shown me the letter that Ken had wrote. And so with this information, I gave it to Ryan. I'm like, I don't want to handle it myself. I don't know exactly what all is going on. I don't understand why Ken would write a letter to the prison because he knows he's already been removed off my visiting list, so it's a little confusing. So I told him, I'm like, you're my husband. And if you want to handle it, if you don't want to say 2 words to him, you don't have to. But you can handle it in whatever way you want. And so Ryan had texted Ken that night and was like, hey, you need to, did you write a letter to the prison? And Ken was like, at first, Ken tried to lie and say that he didn't write the letter to the prison, when in fact he did. And so Ryan was like, well, you need to respect our marriage, please just be as respectful as you can. Gypsy's feelings got a little hurt because she doesn't understand why you would, quote unquote, mess with her like that, And so Ken had responded with, well, I wanted to be removed off of the prison system's contact list permanently. To which Ryan replied, you already were. Gypsy did that 2 years ago. And that was the last that Ken was brought up at all. But I think that gave Ryan a sense of handling a situation for me because I asked him. I put that in his hands. So it essentially built trust back that was kind of lost with that call before the wedding. That trust was built back up by me allowing Ryan to be my husband, step up as my husband, and deal with a situation between my ex and I in a better way.
Mhm. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you gave Ryan that place as your husband and didn't try to hide it, didn't try to delay it, were very honest and forthcoming, and I think it shows him, that you're devoted to him and to your marriage.
Exactly, because I didn't want, I told him when I had got that, call back to the caseworker and all of this was kind of brought to my attention about Ken writing the letter to the prison, I'm like, I didn't ask for this to happen. I didn't reach out to him. He reached out to the prison, and this is what he was wanting, although I don't know why. I don't know the situation behind it, but I'm giving it to you.
You have 1 minute left.
You have his phone number, and so, you can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I guess that's it for today.
That's it for today. You've been such a champ, Gypsy. Thank you so much. And then we will let you know, probably through Ryan. I'm sure it'll be at some point next week, if that works for you.
Okay, that sounds great. And I'm going to try to get the wedding vows back.
That would be perfect. Why don't we just say Tuesday? Does that work for you?
Yeah, that works good.
Same time, 1 o'clock your time?
Yeah, that works perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gypsy.
Right,
we'll talk then.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.